What if I told you that one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time was once deemed expendable? That a future Hall of Famer who would break virtually every passing record in NFL history was once told he wasn't worth the investment? In 2006, the San Diego Chargers made a decision that would haunt their franchise for decades. They let Drew Brees, their Pro Bowl quarterback, walk away over what essentially amounted to just a few $1,000,000. The result? Brees would go on to become one of the most prolific passers in NFL history, break multiple records, and win a Super Bowl with the New Orleans Saints. Meanwhile, the Chargers, despite having incredible talent throughout their roster for years, would never reach the promised land. It wasn't just a bad business decision. It was perhaps the most consequential mistake in modern NFL history, one that transformed not just two franchises, but the entire league. And the most shocking part? The man who made the decision still insists it was the right call. Today, we're diving deep into how this monumental blunder happened, why the Chargers let Drew Brees slip through their fingers, and the devastating ripple effects that continue to this day. If you're new here, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell to catch all our sports documentaries. Now, let's dive into one of the biggest what-ifs in NFL history. The story begins in April 2001. The San Diego Chargers, coming off a dismal 1-15 season, were desperate for change. With the first pick of the second round, 32nd overall, they selected a quarterback from Purdue University named Drew Brees. Standing at just 6 feet tall, considered undersized for an NFL quarterback, Brees wasn't seen as a can't-miss prospect. There were concerns about his height and arm strength. Teams wondered if he could see over NFL-sized offensive linemen or make all the necessary throws at the professional level. Brees spent his rookie season on the bench, learning behind veteran quarterback Doug Flutie, another undersized QB who had made a career out of proving doubters wrong. In 2002, Brees got his chance to start, and while he showed flashes of potential, the results were mixed at best. The 2003 season, however, was when things really got rough. Brees struggled mightily, throwing more interceptions than touchdowns. His passer rating plummeted to just 67.5. Midway through the season, head coach Marty Schottenheimer benched Brees in favor of the 41-year-old Flutie. It seemed Brees might be on his way to becoming just another failed NFL quarterback experiment. The Chargers finished the season tied for the worst record in the NFL at 4-12. With the team in disarray, San Diego earned the first overall pick in the 2004 draft. A pick that would change everything for both Brees and the franchise. The 2004 NFL Draft is legendary for producing 3 franchise quarterbacks in the first round: Eli Manning, Philip Rivers, and Ben Roethlisberger. What many people don't remember is the drama that unfolded behind the scenes, drama that would ultimately lead to the Chargers' fateful decision with Brees. The Chargers held the first overall pick, and the consensus best player was Eli Manning from Ole Miss. But there was a problem. The Manning family, led by patriarch Archie Manning, made it clear that Eli would refuse to play for the Chargers if drafted by them. When Chargers quarterbacks coach Brian Schottenheimer informed Drew Brees that the team was likely going to draft a quarterback, Brees' reaction was intense and prophetic. According to reports, he looked Schottenheimer in the eye and said, "That would be the worst effing mistake this organization could ever make." Despite Brees' warning, the Chargers drafted Manning first overall, but immediately traded him to the New York Giants for Philip Rivers, who was selected 4th overall, plus additional draft picks. The move made sense from a talent standpoint. Rivers was considered an elite prospect with prototypical size and a unique throwing motion. There was just one problem. The incumbent quarterback wasn't ready to give up his job. With the selection of Rivers, most assumed Brees' days in San Diego were numbered. But Rivers held out during training camp in a contract dispute, allowing Brees to retain the starting job to begin the 2004 season. What happened next shocked everyone in the NFL. Given what appeared to be his last chance, Drew Brees played like a man possessed in 2004. He threw for over 3,100 yards with 27 touchdowns and only 7 interceptions. His passer rating skyrocketed to 104.8, third best in the entire NFL, behind only Peyton Manning and Donta Culpepper. Brees led the Chargers to a stunning turnaround, finishing 12-4 and winning the AFC West title. For his efforts, he was named the NFL's Comeback Player of the Year and earned his first Pro Bowl selection. The Chargers' front office now faced an unexpected dilemma. They had invested heavily in Rivers as their quarterback of the future, but BREES was suddenly playing like a franchise quarterback himself. Rather than resolve the issue, the team decided to kick the can down the road. They kept both quarterbacks on the roster for 2005, with BREES playing under the franchise tag, a one-year contract with no long-term security. It was a situation that couldn't last forever, and both the team and BREES knew it. The 2005 season was solid but not spectacular for BREES and the Chargers. BREES threw for over 3,500 yards and 24 touchdowns, but the team's record slipped to 9-7 and they missed the playoffs. Heading into the final game of the season against the Denver Broncos, the Chargers had already been eliminated from playoff contention. The smart move would have been to rest key starters, especially BREES, who was set to become a free agent. Instead, head coach Marty Schottenheimer, locked in a power struggle with general manager A.J. Smith over the quarterback situation, started BREES in the meaningless game. What happened next would alter NFL history. In the second quarter, BREES was sacked by Broncos safety John Lynch. He fumbled the ball and, while diving to recover it, his shoulder was crushed by 325-pound defensive tackle Gerard Warren. BREES left the field in obvious pain. The diagnosis was devastating: a 360-degree tear of the labrum in his throwing shoulder and a partial tear of his rotator cuff. Dr. James Andrews, the renowned orthopedic surgeon who performed the operation, would later call it one of the most unique injuries of any athlete I've ever treated. Many medical experts believed BREES' career as a top-level quarterback might be over. The injury couldn't have come at a worse time, right before he was set to sign the biggest contract of his life. With BREES' future clouded by the severe shoulder injury, Chargers GM A.J. Smith had a career-defining decision to make. The team had invested in Philip Rivers as their quarterback of the future, and now BREES' injury gave them the perfect excuse to move on. The Chargers offered BREES a 5-year, $50 million contract that looked reasonable on the surface. But the details told a different story. It contained just $2 million in guaranteed money the first year, essentially backup quarterback money. The rest was tied to incentives and future guarantees that would only kick in if BREES proved he could still play at a high level. To BREES, the offer was insulting. After everything he had done for the organization, turning his career around, making the Pro Bowl, leading the team to a division title, the Chargers were showing they had no real faith in him. They were basically saying, "We don't believe in you," BREES would later explain. Only two other teams showed serious interest in the injured quarterback: the Miami Dolphins and the New Orleans Saints. The Dolphins' doctors examined BREES and concluded he had just a 25% chance of fully recovering, so they passed. The Saints, coming off a disastrous 3-13 season and dealing with the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, were desperate. Their new head coach, Payton, saw something special in BREES and convinced the organization to take a chance. They offered BREES a 6-year, $60 million deal with $10 million guaranteed the first year, 5 times what the Chargers were willing to guarantee. On March 14, 2006, Drew BREES signed with the New Orleans Saints. A.J. Smith and the Chargers had made their decision. Philip Rivers would be their quarterback going forward, and Drew BREES would be someone else's problem. It was a gamble that would have historic consequences. For the Chargers, the post-BREES era started promisingly. In his first season as a starter, Philip Rivers led the team to a 14-2 record, though they suffered a disappointing playoff loss. Rivers would go on to have an outstanding career: over 63,000 passing yards, 421 touchdowns, and 8 Pro Bowl selections. By any measure, he was an excellent quarterback. But in New Orleans, Drew BREES was becoming a legend. Despite concerns about his shoulder, BREES was ready by training camp and immediately transformed the Saints. In his first season, he led them to the NFC Championship game. By 2009, just 3 years after the Chargers let him go, BREES led the Saints to their first Super Bowl victory in franchise history, defeating Peyton Manning and the Indianapolis Colts. The statistical comparisons are staggering. With the Saints, BREES would Break the NFL record for career passing yards. Break the NFL record for career completions. Set the NFL record for completion percentage in a season multiple times. Throw for 5,000 plus yards in a season 5 times. Make 12 Pro Bowls win Super Bowl 44 MVP. Meanwhile, the Chargers, despite having rosters loaded with talent including LaDainian Tomlinson, Antonio Gates, and a stellar defense, never reached the Super Bowl with Rivers. They remained competitive, but could never get over the hump, repeatedly falling short in the playoffs, often against the New England Patriots. The decision to let BREES walk didn't just affect the Chargers and Saints, it changed the entire NFL landscape. Consider how different the league would look if BREES had stayed in San Diego. The Saints might never have become a powerhouse, and the emotional post-Katrina recovery story might never have happened. The Chargers might have won a Super Bowl with their stacked roster, and BREES at quarterback Philip Rivers might have developed into a star somewhere else. The city of San Diego might still have an NFL team instead of watching the Chargers relocate to Los Angeles. And it all came down to a matter of trust and a few $1 million in guaranteed money. What makes this story particularly painful for Chargers fans is that both sides could have won. The Chargers could have kept BREES and traded Rivers for a massive haul of draft picks and players. Or they could have given BREES the guaranteed money he deserved and still moved on if his shoulder didn't heal properly. But A.J. Smith, known for his stubborn approach to team management, was unwilling to take the risk. He bet against BREES' recovery, and it became one of the worst bets in NFL history. Not everyone agrees that letting BREES go was a mistake. Some argue that given the severity of the injury, the Chargers made a reasonable decision. Even Dr. Andrews, who performed the surgery, initially had concerns about whether BREES would ever be the same quarterback again. From the Chargers' perspective, they already had Rivers, a first-round pick with prototypical size and arm talent, waiting in the wings. Why risk significant guaranteed money on a quarterback coming off a potentially career-ending injury? But what this perspective misses is the human element. Drew Brees had already proven his resilience by bouncing back from being benched in 2003 to become a Pro Bowler in 2004. He had shown incredible determination and leadership. These intangible qualities, the mental toughness, the work ethic, the fierce competitiveness, can't be measured by medical scans or physical examinations. The Saints understood this. Sean Payton saw beyond the injury to the character of the man. He bet on Brees' determination to prove everyone wrong, and that bet paid off spectacularly. The lesson? In professional sports, sometimes the mental makeup of an athlete matters more than their physical tools or medical prognosis. The Chargers evaluated Drew Brees' shoulder. The Saints evaluated Drew Brees' heart. In the end, Drew Brees had the last word. He retired after the 2020 season as one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. He holds numerous NFL records and will be a first-ballot Hall of Famer. Philip Rivers also retired after an excellent career, but without the championship or statistical dominance of Brees. The Chargers, meanwhile, never found the postseason success they sought, eventually leaving San Diego altogether for Los Angeles. The story of Drew Brees and the Chargers serves as a powerful reminder that sometimes the biggest mistakes in sports aren't the trades you make or the players you draft. They're the players you let go, the ones you undervalue, the ones whose greatness you fail to recognize until it's too late. For the Chargers, it wasn't just letting a great player walk away. It was letting a legend slip through their fingers. A legend who had warned them it would be the worst mistake they could ever make. History proved him right. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the NFL's biggest what-ifs, please hit that like button and subscribe.